Hello, everybody. Sorry about that.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Happy Monday.
Yes, happy Monday.
To you
Yes.
too.
All right. I hate this where I have to admit everybody.
Oh,
It's a pain in the butt.
you know you can set it up where you don't have to.
I'm going to have to reset it. And there
Yeah.
is our guy. And Steve is on. I bet he was freaking out. All right. So
you're-
welcome. Good morning. Happy Monday and welcome to group coaching. Today we are thrilled to have our master of business planning, Steve Kout. He is an agent with our office. He and his wife have a team, and he also is been Matt's coach. He's been a team lead. He's been a technology guru for the Rawls group. Am I missing anything that you've been, Steve, besides an overall awesome guy?
Proud
Yes.
father of two amazing daughters.
There you go. Two amazing daughters, and they are. So we're thrilled to have Steve here. He's coached some of the biggest teams, and he knows his numbers. And that's why he's here today to walk us through. We're so thrilled to have him. So please, ladies and gentlemen, mute yourself. If you have a question, don't hesitate to either jump on and ask or put yourself in the chat, and we'll make sure we get to your question. And Steve, I'm just going to let you go ahead and take it away, bud.
All right, sounds great, Julianne. All right. By the way, do I have screen sharing ability?
Absolutely.
Perfect, fantastic. Okay, so as we get started here, a couple of things. First of all, while it is appreciated for you to be muted, so we don't have any unnecessary background noises bothering anybody with the exception of my dogs, please, please, please unmute yourself and jump in at any time with questions or thoughts or comments, or if I need to say something more clearly, I don't mind, just say something. And please, let's make this participatory and interactive and not just an hour and a half long lecture. That'll be boring for everybody, including me. So looking for some good two-way conversation as we work our way through this today. Hopefully everybody saw the email that came out this morning that had two attachments for this session today. I see Tom Griswold's got it printed up and he's ready to rock and roll, not surprised. So in particular, if you haven't done it yet, there is a Word document. One of those two attachments is a Word document titled Coach K 2021 one-page MREA business plan. If you haven't yet, you might want to print that up. If you can't print it up, at least have it available on your screen. You will see it on the screen as well, but ideally, you're going to be able to start writing on it and start doing at least a first draft of your own business plan during our session today. So, who's the audience today? Julianne, Authorine, tell me, you fill me in a little bit. I recognize a few faces and names, but not a
It's
lot.
mixed. It's
It is a
mixed.
really good mix.
You
Yeah.
got you got some 20%ers, you got some middles, and you've got ALC members, and you've got some newbies.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Fantastic. Thanks for letting me know. And that is good, actually. That's great.
I would like to ask a question. So would you all put in your chat bar if you've ever written a business plan before for your business? I'm curious, has anybody done it?
It's a great question. Wow. All right. A good mix. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. For those of you that have never done one before, congratulations for being here and leading into it. And for those of you that have, be curious as to, especially for something for you to be thinking about, if not even also perhaps share a little bit, did it actually make a difference? Did you actually follow it? Or was it a one-time exercise that then went into a drawer or a folder and didn't really affect your actions on an ongoing basis? If anybody has the guts to speak up now, that'd be great. Otherwise, just a question to ask yourself and to keep in mind here, right?
I don't know about anybody else. I find that, and I'll start the ball rolling. I can't live without it. I have to have in my mind where I'm headed. Do I look at it daily? No, but in my mind, I know what it is. So it gives me the focus to push towards my goal. If I didn't, I wouldn't accomplish anything because I would just kind of go through life. And I'm so used to setting goals and having a plan that it feels like it's a necessity to me.
Great. And that's a point that I'd like everybody to work towards getting to. For a lot of us, it's kind of an E to P process where it's not comfortable to have a plan and actually follow it until we do it long enough that it does become comfortable. And in fact, it becomes to the point where it's not comfortable to not have that, which is exactly what you're saying here, Julianne, right? Yeah, so that's part of the goal here. And keep in mind that, and by the way, thank you for the shares and some honesty there about how we've used or not utilized our plans in the past. The key thing to keep in mind is that once you have the goal set, you don't focus on the goal. You focus on the actions. Okay? You focus on the actions. And so we need to have a business plan that is actually action oriented and that tells us what we need to be doing. And we can do this. I think we've taught this in the past in the Market Center. We can do this again at some point. How we can use the GPS and the 411 as ways to make sure that we continue to put our plans into action on an ongoing basis. We won't have time to get into that today. But make sure that we are doing this with the idea of determining our actions and that then we're then going to get consistent about actually performing the actions. Okay. Now, as we go through this, this is always a bit of a challenge to do on a group basis, and it'll likely be even more so doing it via video, although not much more than even when we do it in the classroom. Most of the time, I do this one-on-one with my clients. I am a full-time MAPS coach. Now, my wife, Teresa, does still actively sell. And I've been a full-time MAPS coach for over 7 years now, and I do work with some of the biggest teams in the Keller Williams universe. This business plan that we're working from today is a form that I first created and started using, well, really 14 years ago now. When I first became the team leader of our Sandy Springs office, I ran that Market Center for 4.5 years before becoming a MAPS coach. And this form has evolved over the years. Those of you who have seen this before with me will note that this year's is yet again a little bit different than before. So it is definitely a work in progress and definitely always evolving. And it is built around the 4 principal models of the millionaire real estate agent. Anybody want to stand up and try a pop quiz question? What are the 4 models of MREA?
You can just look in my book.
Yes, you can. It is an open book test, Authorine.
Oh. Let me unmute.
All right, anybody else want to beat Authorine to it?
Are you talking about the 4 models, like the budget model, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so budget's 1.
That's correct.
Lead generating is 1.
Correct.
Operational.
What?
Sorry, organizational.
Yes.
Organizational, right. And the primary one that drives it all is the economic model. And that's where we're going to start. So this 1-page business plan, by the way, it is purposefully 1 page. Gary Keller is very clear about doing things on 1 page because you're much more likely to actually keep it in hand and use it. And it keeps it narrowed down and simple, right? Along the concepts of the one thing. So the biggest top section of this one page is the economic model, and that's where we're going to start. The lead generation model takes up the next section down. The budget and organizational model are fairly small on here, and then at the bottom, we've got our growth plan and financial goals. So there are 5 different sections broken up by lines of asterisks. And we're going to start with the economic model and work our way down. All right. I'm going to go ahead and jump into screen sharing. Can you all see that? Did that work?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Hey, all right, fantastic. So I've got 2 different versions of business plan actually available with some actual numbers in it to help hopefully make this a bit easier to follow as we're working through this. Okay, I'm going to spend most of the time on what's really pretty much a new agent or solo agent version of the business plan. And at times I will show you a version that would be more what it would look like when you have a team. Okay. And on the agent version here, I worked around some relatively common numbers for a solo agent in our market center. And in this case, I built it around actually, because I've been doing this for so long and I've taught this in the classroom for so long as a team leader and as a MAPS coach. All the time I see people doing their business plan around what would it take for me to actually make $100,000 in a year. Okay, so that's how I've constructed this. And this would actually be $100,000 of taxable income. After all of what it takes to run your business, this is how much it would take for you to be able to say, I made $100,000 this year. Okay, any questions? Now, with the bigger teams, and when you're working with me on a one-on-one basis as a coach, we're most likely actually going to focus on units. And that's actually how I built the team version that you'll see later on. But this version here is built around what it would take to make $100,000. And so I'm going to do things in a little bit of a reverse order here. I worked off of, and I don't know if these are the right numbers to use for our market center, it doesn't matter, they're close enough. I use an average sales price of $290,000. Yeah. And can you all see when I highlight things?
Yes.
Great, great. And an average commission of 2.75%, which generates an average commission check of just under, so I actually rounded it up in the rest of my math to $8,000 in gross commission income per closing. By the way, we'll talk more about the term gross commission income next week when we meet again and talk about the P&L and financial systems. Okay, but for now, this simply refers to how much the total amount of commission is on your side of the closing. Okay, if it's a $300,000 closing and you're getting 3%, it's going to be $9,000, which doesn't necessarily mean that's how much money you're depositing into your bank account. Again, that's for next week. So what I did was then I worked backwards. If before you have a team, your cost of sales is just to capture the market center plus the royalties to Keller Williams International. So $18,000. And if you want to make some notes here, if you're going to work off of a number other than $100,000, what you'll do then is take, what I did here was I took $100,000 plus $18,000, added them up, $118,000. I did that in my head. And then I took that number and I divided it by 0.7. So take some notes here. Add up your goal income plus the $18,000 and then divide that by 0.7. The reason that we're dividing it by 0.7 is because your business expenses should be 30% of your gross commission income. So 0.7 plus 0.3 or 30% that's how I got the 0.7. It's 1 minus 0.3. I'm probably confusing some people right now, so let me stop and give you a free chance to speak up and say, hey, help me out here.
Steve, so even though if you have contract to close, that goes under your expenses, not a cost of sales?
Absolutely goes under expenses.
Okay.
Just because it's on the DA, if you're doing it, getting paid that way doesn't mean that it's a cost of sale.
Okay.
Great question.
Steve, you said
repeat that
add,
formula, please? Goal
Yep.
income.
So your goal income, in this case, the goal income is $100,000 plus the market center cap, $18,000, so $118,000, and I divided by 0.7, and then I just rounded that answer to $170,000. So your goal income. So if your goal income is 75,000, you take 75,000 plus 18,000. And then divide that by 0.7, because we're basically adding 30% onto that for our expenses, and that will tell us how much gross commission income we need to generate.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else, or everybody feel like you got it? By the
Yeah.
way, go ahead.
Got it.
Great. Steve@kout.com. So my first name and my last name is how you can reach me later for questions.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
some agents may be curious, why did you do the average commission at 2.75 instead of 3?
For a couple of reasons. One, unfortunately, we're not always offered 3%. I'm not saying that we should ever take our listings at less than 3% our side, but there may be times when that might happen. Also, Julianne, it's because we're business planning here, okay? We cannot create a smart business plan if we're building it around best case scenarios.
Yeah.
There are some places in here where we're going to have to make some assumptions. And our assumptions should really be on the conservative side. They should be highly likely to actually be worse than reality. So if we're building a business plan around best case scenarios, well, I don't know about y'all, but 2020 has not quite turned out the way I thought it would coming into the year. So maybe it's just me, but you never know, right? So that's one place where now, ideally, like with the clients that I've got clients that I've been coaching for 7-8 years in a row now, and we've got great historical data. So we can look and see exactly what their commission percentage has been, exactly what their average sales price has been. And to the extent possible, we want to work off your personal numbers and not just market center averages or estimates. But again, this is also a, kind of a generic sample just to help y'all understand how this crazy form full of blanks everywhere actually works. And then all I did was I took $170,000 and divided that by $8,000, which is the amount of GCI per closing, and figured out how many units do I need to do. And that's where the 22 came from. So
Okay,
22.
so I got a question.
Yeah.
Is it when you take your goal income plus the 18,000 and divide it, are you dividing it by 0.7% or by 0.7?
Just by 0.7. So you'll get a bigger number. And that gives the I rounded it up to 170,000. And then I just went back and did the basic math. So 170,000 minus 18,000.
So then you have to subtract it out in order to get what your expenses are.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Exactly.
I thought I was doing it wrong.
Yeah, no, that's how. It's a little more confusing when we're doing it this way than when we actually have a team. And again, y'all can reach out to me or scan me your business plans and ask me if you did it right.
And we always want to round up, right?
Yes, we always round up. So to make 100,000, we need 170,000 in gross commission income. Now, it actually worked out that 22 units, because I rounded up, meant that we'll actually do 176,000 in GCI. So those numbers don't exactly match, but there's a good reason why, because I rounded up the number of units. It's hard to close 21.23 units, or whatever the number was.
How did you get the 22 units sold again? What figure or what calculation? I knew.
170,000
Yep.
divided by 79.75.
Oh.
In this case, I just rounded that to 8,000.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay,
How many $8,000 checks do I need to add up to $170,000?
gotcha.
And 22 put me over the number.
Okay.
21 wasn't quite enough. And then, of course, the market volume is easy. 22 units times the average sales price, which I used at 290,000, came out to 6.38 million.
Divided by. So just to make sure, we're taking the gross commission income and we're dividing it by our average commission per closing, and that gives us the number of units.
Exactly. Exactly.
Divided by 8,000. That's the average commission.
This is one of the couple of parts where it's a little more challenging to do it in a big group instead of one-on-one. So I appreciate everybody leaning in here. And again, that's why I'm available later on if you need some extra help. And Julianne and Arthurine have this down cold, so they can do it too with you.
Thank you, sir. We got this.
we collectively got this. It's always a team effort.
All right, so I'm curious, as you're crunching your numbers, what's your unit number? Mine is 34.
All right, let's see the chat box light up.
56.
Unit number? Okay.
Chris, always an overachiever. All right. So now we've got goal numbers. But what did I say early on? What do we actually focus on?
Units.
Units from a goal standpoint. Beyond that, instead of goals, what do we really keep what do we really focus on day in, day out
Actions,
basis?
sir.
Actions. So let's start turning this into actions now. All right. This is going to start taking us in the direction. So the key part of the economic model comes in right here. And this is the last place where math is going to get a bit tricky for a minute. Okay, so I've highlighted the seller line on here. Out of 22 units sold, I'm working off of the basic suggestion, strong suggestion that for a solo agent, for a level 1, 2, or 3 agent, ideally your business should be at least 60% listings.
Steve,
Yes.
most of the times when they're brand new, we're seeing that it's 50-50.
Hey, I'll take 50-50 if I can get it. All too often I see new agents that are much higher on the buyer side than the listing side. So you can,
Agreed. That's why we push for 50-50.
if
Yeah.
we can, look, if you can set them however you want. I'm going to stick with the 60% here proudly, but I also understand where y'all are coming from, and that's
And I agree with you, Steve. It's much stronger 60-40.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And frankly, once you get to have a bigger team, those of you that have multiple buyers agents, you should actually be doing more buy sides than listing sides. And that's where I break with MAPS and MREA, because when you've got that many listings, you're going to have so many buyer lead opportunities that if you're not converting more buyer leads, ultimately, you're missing out on business opportunity and business growth. So this is a fun conversation to have. And you can do it 50-50 if you want. Okay, you just use different numbers. So 60% of 22 meant that we need to sell 14 listings. So that's the first number. Now we have to do 2 conversion ratios here. So we're going to do some backwards math, some dividing by a percentage number again. So what percentage of our listings actually sell? Fact of the matter is, these days, 80% is probably low, but that's not always the case. And again, you want to be conservative. If you build this around figuring that 80% of the listings you take will sell, and then you end up selling 94% of them, well, then you're just going to have more taxes to pay, right? Nice problem to have. Chris got that immediately. So I took 14 and divided by 0.8, 80%. And that worked out to 18 homes that need to be listed, which was technically 1.5 listings a month. I rounded up to 2. The key number is you need to take 18 listings in order to sell at least 14. Everybody with me so far? Any questions? So now we got one more conversion rate.
Remind everybody again, and I'm just slowing it down just a little bit.
That's fine.
We're adding this because we don't close everything.
Not everything we take sells.
Right.
Anytime an agent says to me, well, I close every single listing I take, I don't even hesitate. I say, well, then you're not taking enough listings.
Got it. And remember, everybody, you're rounding up. So if you get a point something, you have to round up because you can't sell half a house.
And in most cases, I would recommend that you even ignore the rounding rules we all learned in elementary school. And if it's less than, half, still round up. Okay, so if I take 18 listings, I will sell at least 14 in all likelihood. My goal is if I know any month when I take 2 listings, that's a good month towards my business plan. Now we have the next conversion number here. And this is what percentage of the listing appointments that I go on turn into my sign planted in the yard. And this number varies. And by the way, there are some great agents out there whose conversion ratio on listing appointments is lower than 75%. Okay. And it's going to vary a lot, having to do with how you generate listing leads. If you go strongly after for sale by owners and or for expireds, it's quite possible that your appointment conversion rate could be noticeably lower than that. And you're still doing a good job. If pretty much all your listing appointments are coming from your sphere of influence, 75% is probably low. And one of the things that you should be tracking is how many listing appointments have you gone on for the month and for the year to date, and what was the outcome, right? They listed with me, they listed with somebody else, they haven't listed with anybody. 3 different outcomes. And you should know that for every single listing appointment that you go on. Just start up a simple spreadsheet and start tracking. On October 30th, I had a listing appointment with the Joneses at 1313 Mockingbird Lane. See if anybody gets that. I'm not even into Halloween, but it just hit me.
Adams Family?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was the Addams Family, not the Munsters, but I'm not positive. And then you track the outcome. Listed with me, listed with another agent, didn't list at all. And by the way, either listed with another agent or didn't list at all, it still means that our conversion percentage is lower. But if they didn't list at all, that also means that you need to keep nurturing them. And actually, if they do list with another agent, you should track it, make sure that the other agent bought the listing and it doesn't sell. You may go after it again. Okay, so I got to take 18 listings. Divide by 0.75, 75% means I need to go on 24 listing appointments. "24 listing appointments divided by 12, 2 listing appointments per month." Again, did that in my head. Doesn't even matter. Don't even, if it's a number like that, don't even worry about the weekly amount. The listing appointments per month. And I love saying this, and I pretty much, if not always, say this. While we're going to fill out you're going to fill out your whole business plan, 2 listing appointments a month. If there's one thing on this whole sheet of paper that you focus on, that means everything, it's that number. When you go on 2 listing appointments a month, the chances are incredibly high that you will meet and exceed your goals on the top of the page. Is everybody comfortable with how to do the economic model calculations for your listing appointments? By the way, that's why the number of appointments is in bold.
Has everybody got their numbers?
We're doing good. Buyer side, I've learned to do differently than following the MREA economic model. There's just so much variation in what counts as a buyer consultation and tracking and everything, that we just work off the basic MAPS leads model, which tells us that overall 2 appointments leads to 1 closing. So if I have 16 buyer consults over the course of the year, I should have at least 8 buyer closings. And with this number of transactions, I don't need any buyer's agents. Matter of fact, until my business is big enough for me to have 2 admin, I haven't earned the right to consider hiring a buyer's agent. I'm going to say that again. Until your business is big enough for you to need 2 people supporting you administratively. Doesn't mean 2 full-time, doesn't mean 2 that work only for you. But until you have 2 people covering admin roles for you, you have not earned the right to even consider having a buyer's agent.
And Steve, why are we choosing, or why are we saying double on the buyer again?
Basic leads model works out to 2 appointments overall leads to 1 closing. And when you look at the default models in MREA on the buyer side and the listing side, the math works out to basically that as well. So it's a nice simple 2-to-1 ratio of consults
That's
to
interesting.
closings.
Never heard that before, but it's true. I mean, especially now with it being so tight market, people not qualifying, there's a lot of things that can happen. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and in general, let me see if I can find it quick enough. Yes. The metadata large numbers are 12 contacts equals 1 lead, 5 leads equals 1 appointment, and 2 appointments equals 1 closing.
Will you
So
say that again, please?
12 contacts equals 1 lead. 1 lead. 5 leads will lead to 1 appointment. And 2 appointments will end up resulting in 1 closing. So that's 120 contacts per closing.
That's good, thanks. This is also a great example of why listings are leverage and why it's so important to get more listings than buyers.
Listings are absolutely leverage, and that's going to show up again when we get to the lead generation model in a few minutes. So that's why, yes, you do need to be focused on at least 50% listings, and ideally 60% at this stage of your business. Listings will always remain the biggest priority. Just as your business grows, it may not remain the largest segment. Now, there are two more numbers that, as a MAPS coach, I have my clients report to me every single week, along with how many listing appointments have they gone on. We also calculate how many active listings should they have at all times, and how many deals in pending status should they have at all times.
And why, as a coach, is that so important to you?
Because if things start to slip away and we don't realize it in time, it's really hard to play catch up. It allows me to keep an eye on how consistent my client is being with their lead generation. Because consistency is absolutely the name of the game. These are 2 of your 5 jobs every day, right?
Mhm.
Lead generation and lead follow-up, which are frankly the same thing, but that's, again, a conversation for another day. Those that we do every single day. We have to stay consistent. We have to consistently hit our listing appointments number. These are the leading indicators. Okay, pendings is a lagging indicator, but listing appointments and number of active listings are leading indicators. So these 3 numbers are like the, in a airplane cockpit full of gauges everywhere. These are the 3 key ones that allow us to make sure that we're flying straight and level and at the right altitude.
How do you figure the active listings needed?
The other attachment that was sent out to everybody this morning is a simple spreadsheet that takes that crazy formula a lot of us learned in bold and turns it into a simple input your numbers in the yellow boxes and it will tell you. The biggest thing to understand here, everybody, is that the days on market is the most critical number in here. The math itself is very sensitive to days on market, and ideally, you're working off your actual days on market for your listings if you have enough. If not, you can go by the market center average or the MLS average, but ideally, you're going off of your average. Because just because the market is averaging this, if you're good at pricing your listings, yours is going to be lower. And if you're not good at pricing your listings, your average is going to be higher.
Anybody got an idea what the market days on average are right now?
Our last quarterly showed 22 days.
There it is. You knew right where to go. If you don't know your numbers, we got Chartmaster to the rescue.
Thanks, Liz.
Excellent. So you just plug in your number of listings, your percentage that sell, what percentage of your units are so total number of units, your goal, what percentage are listings, what percentage of your listings sell, and then your days on market. By the way, remember, days on market is from the day you put it into the MLS until the day it goes under contract. Any sort of pending status means it's under contract.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Sure. Yes.
Since things are moving so quickly now, sometimes we are networking things out. They're not hitting the market. What do we do with our number on those? I mean, they're not the majority, but what do we do with that?
1 day on market.
Thank you.
1 day on market. Yes, that's a wonderful problem that obviously a lot of my clients have been having. Yes, you basically treat it as 1 day on market and add it into your averages. And then pendings needed. I just take the number of closings for the year, divide by 12 months. And then with some clients, it's different, but in general, the default is we're going to assume 45 days from contract to close. Some things close faster. Sometimes we have new construction that takes longer. Lenders are so backed up these days. I think I saw Jeff on here at some point. He may want to comment on that. But so I would take, since 45 days is 1.5 months, I would take 22, divide by 12 and multiply by 1.5. So take your number of units, that's your goal, divide by 12 months, and then multiply that by 1.5. Or if you're, if you're confident your deal's generally close sooner, use 1 or 1.25 for 1 month or 5 weeks. Any questions with the economic model? We're mostly done with fun with numbers for now. So the next section on the business plan, and this section definitely had some changes from
I'm
last year to
sorry,
this year as well. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Steve. Pending, so we have the spreadsheet that helps us with the active listings. What about the pendings needed? How do we?
It's again, it's basic math. Your unit goal, divide by 12 months, times however long it takes on average to get from contract to close. If it takes you 45 days, that's 1.5 months.
Okay.
So 1.5. So unit goal, divide by 12 times 1.5.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so now we move to the lead generation model. And we can only do so many different things well. So even though we learn about a lot of different types of lead generation, we should only be focused on up to and no more than 4. And the first 2 are the same for everybody, so I've actually filled in the blanks for you. This is the way my plan always works. These first 2 are always filled in. This business is a database business. Your MET database, which I'm going to talk about that term more in a couple of minutes, is the single most important part of your lead generation strategies and model. We're going to dive deeper into that one shortly. Number 2 is number 2 because it's the second one that's automatic for all of us. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be your second largest source of deals. Might be, but that's not the point here. Actually, the point here, Julianne, is what you pointed out a few minutes ago. Listings generate leads. Listings generate buyer leads. Page 42 of MREA, for every properly marketed listing, we should generate 1 additional transaction that we would not have otherwise had. So MLML is shorthand for my listings, my leads, the actual Keller Williams philosophy that leads from our listings go to us, not to the brokerage in general. And generating leads from your listings, there are a number of different things that fall under this category. Open houses, door knocking and circle prospecting, actual, sign calls and quote unquote sign calls, internet inquiries on our listings, etc. All the different ways that we can interact with people using our listings as bait. So these 2 are in play for everybody, not optional. Now, if you happen to be in a position where you can actually easily hit your goal just from the first 2, you might not need any more. And sometimes my clients will stop there, or sometimes they'll only have 3. Pretty rare that we stop there, though. So we've got room on here for 2 more primary lead generation strategies, things that we're going to master and do at a high level. Ideally, at least one of them is going to be listings focused. So based on the market that we're in right now, I actually put for sale by owner, since there are a lot more opportunities with for sale by owners than there are with expireds these days. But it doesn't have to be for sale by owner. It could be expireds. It could be door knocking. I suppose you can make the argument that it could be farming, but farming tends to be too much passive and just marketing, and therefore avoidance of prospecting, avoidance of lead generation. If you're going to farm, you better be door knocking in there. You better be running for mayor. And then considering the type of agent that we're kind of focusing on in this business plan, I put command Facebook ads. Leads from running the Facebook ads through command. Extremely inexpensive. It's going to fit into this agent's budget. It will generate a lot of lead opportunities. Again, a lot of different things that you could put in here. But the suggestion is to have at least one that's listings focused.
Would you consider referrals as an option?
So are you talking about, by the way, the answer to, in either case is going to be no, but are you talking about referrals from your database or referrals from other agents?
Referrals from other agents.
Referrals from other agents. In general, I say no, simply because it's really hard to actually proactively change the results. However, it is possible. I have seen some agents that have done a really good job with that. And so, yes, that one is a maybe.
Okay.
But I hesitate to say that in a group setting because too many people will hear that and think, oh, great, I'll just put that down. But since you can't really be proactive with it, you got to really have a strong strategy around that for it to actually move the needle.
Got it. Makes sense.
Okay, so that's why. And you know why the answer was no for referrals from your database, right?
No, please.
No.
Because that falls under number one.
Got it.
Yeah.
Number one is, which we're going to spend a few minutes talking about here shortly. So after we get past the lead generation model, the rest of this is actually pretty easy. At the risk of getting too deep into this topic, something that is on my one-page business plan, and I did give an example of here, is the 15th protocol, which is the idea that if I get to the middle of the month and I'm not on track for my goals this month, then I got to double down. I need to institute plan B. Most of the time, a 15th protocol is going to be built around listing appointments. So that's why I said on here, my goal is to have 2 listing appointments a month on this business plan here. So if I haven't had at least one by the 15th, I'm behind.
And that's what you're basing it on, as your listings.
Ideally, yes, listing appointments. Could be other things. Most often I see it being done as listing appointments. So if I'm about halfway to my goal by the close of business on the 15th day of the month, I better put plan B into effect. And what is plan B? You need to decide now, not then, because you don't have time to think about it. You got to get straight into action. So here, if I'm not there, then I'm proposing, okay, I have to call 10 for sale by owners every day and I have to call 20 people in my sphere every day until I am back on track.
And this is not considered a punishment. This is considered a plan of action as a business owner to get yourself back on track.
That's exactly right. Now, it doesn't mean it might not have a bit of a feeling of being a punishment. That's not by design, but then again, it's also not entirely undeserved. Okay. One of two things happened, right? Plan A wasn't sufficient. And if the 15th protocol comes into play for you every once in a while, sometimes, you know, that's just the way the football bounces, right? No more football references.
Mm.
No more football references in Atlanta.
Oh, God.
By the way, so here's my water cup today. But the other issue could be that, you know, either plan A wasn't sufficient, which if that happens month after month, then plan A better become more robust. Or plan A didn't even happen. In which case, yeah, it's going to feel a bit punitive and you deserve it.
So Steve, if you end up on the 15th of the month consistently and you haven't hit it, what does that tell you? Do you need to adjust your goals or your activities or what? I'm asking questions I know the answers to, you know that, but
Yes, I
think
do.
for other people to know.
Right, right. Well, if you're going to adjust your goals, and let's go back up top and see what your big why is. Why are you doing this? Are you saying that it's okay for your kids to have student loan debt now, or whatever you might put? Are you willing to sacrifice your goal, your
No,
big why?
no,
Then you better work on your actions.
yeah.
And you got to have a real honest conversation with yourself. Is plan A not robust enough, in which case I need to add to it? Or is plan A just really not happening? Am I kidding myself that I'm actually doing true lead generation every single day? Questions, thoughts, comments? Some of you are getting punched in the nose right now. Everybody understanding the general concept of the 15th protocol? Get yourself back on track before you're too far off track to be able to save it.
Stephen wants you to, Stephen, what do you want him to review again? Unmute yourself, please.
The 15th protocol.
Okay.
Just go ahead and review it again.
Okay, so the 15th protocol is the idea that if I get to the 15th of the month and I'm not on track for my goals for this month, I have to course correct now. I can't wait any longer, or the chances of getting back on track drop rapidly. So if I'm behind goal halfway through the month, then I got to step it up. A protocol is a predetermined set of actions, predetermined. Okay. That's why we learn how to do fire drills before the building's actually on fire. So we know what to do, because we don't have any time to waste and figure it out then. So I determined if I haven't had at least one listing appointment by the 15th of the month based on this business plan, then I know that starting on the 16th, I have to call 10 FSBOs a day and talk to 20 people a day in my sphere until I've gotten my 2 listing appointments for the month.
So I have a question. This is Lisa. So what happens if you're doing all of that on the 15th and you realize, you come the 15th, you still don't have an appointment and you're doing all of the action that is necessary, then what? Like, then what is another action that we can take?
Well, you don't put, so what you're saying is, these actions here are not plan A, okay? Let's say plan A is that you call 5 for sale by owners a day and you talk to 10 people in your sphere a day. So you don't put your plan A actions in here. This is beyond what you have figured you should be doing every day. So if this is what you're already doing every day and it's not enough, then your protocol has to be more than this.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what I figured, that you have to just increase it now.
Right,
More
because
and
this
more
is
and
not
more.
plan A. Calling 10 FSBOs and 20 sphere a day is plan B, is an example of a plan B. If that's your plan A, it doesn't go here. That's plan A.
So what's another example of a good plan B if you're
Oh,
doing
there are-
plan A?
Oh, so many. You can do a bold 100 or a bold 50 even. You're going to make 50 contacts in a single day. You're going to double down on the number of open houses that you're doing. You can do 2 open houses every weekend. You can do 3 open houses a week. You're going to go door knock 50 doors a day, every day.
Thanks for those additional examples. Thank you.
They're always going to be prospecting related, and ideally, and not all of those were, but ideally they're going to be listings related.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, now this next part, these next 3 lines get into your database, and this part I have changed a lot this year from before. This has to do with lead generation strategy number 1, our MET database. The key thing to understand about our MET database is this is people that already know us and presumably already like us and trust us. And the key thing is that these are the people that from whom we should have the opportunity to receive referrals from. Somebody that knows us and we know them well enough that they could and therefore should be a source of referrals. It's about the referrals, and that's a key takeaway here for the next few minutes of the conversation.
Can I ask a stupid question?
I love stupid questions.
What does MET stand for again?
People that you have met, people that you actually know.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not an acronym this time. I know everything at KW is acronyms, but this time it's not. That's what threw you off. I mean, so that's actually a very fair question.
okay. All right.
And by the way, hilarious, but laughing with you, not at you. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm like, what is MET? Like, thank you.
I don't know. Let's come up with something. It stands for my eternal thanks for all the referrals I get from these people. There we go. How's that for thinking on my feet?
I think that's perfect.
Yeah. Right
My eternal team.
My eternal team. Yes. They're a part of the team. They send me business. They're part of my business team.
I have a quick question about Teams, because I know you said you were going to discuss it a little later on, and forgive me if you did, if I missed it.
No, I haven't switched to that one
is-
yet, but I can.
Oh, good. Okay, so then I could wait. You're going to deal with Teams after, right?
Yeah, hopefully we'll have
I'll
enough time
just
that I
wait.
can walk through the team version
Yeah, okay.
before we run out of time.
Okay, thank you. If not, I'll just ask my question, but I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you. Okay, so what we're talking about are the number of people that we've actually put into our database, whether it's Command or any other CRM. It's not the point here right now. Okay, and these are the people that I coached a guy who was Chris Heller's right hand for a long time. Chris Heller used to be CEO of Keller Williams International. And this guy's name was John, and he referred to them as Hey Johns. And I really like that when he said that. So that's how I like to describe it. These are the people on their database that if you picked up a phone and called them, right, they'd say, hey, Steve. Hey, Eric. Hey, Tom. Hey, Authorine. They know us. There's a level of relationship there. Might not be close, but at least there's a recognition level there. And it might be, hey, it's been a long time, but at least there's a level of recognition there. So in this case, we're not talking about people in our database that we met one time at an open house or we had a listing appointment with one time. Those would really be nurtures, not METs. So the number of people that are truly a MET, by the way, METs include, but are not limited to your past clients. And frankly, I don't believe there's really a reason to separate out and look at your past clients differently than anybody else that's a MET. So sphere of influence includes past clients. Past clients are just one of the many subcategories of your sphere of influence. Over time, oftentimes becomes the largest subcategory, but it's a subcategory. So in the basic conversion that we look for is at least 10%. The ideal conversion that we're looking for is actually between 16 and 17%. 16.4 is there for a reason. Just think about it as 16 to 17%. So in MREA, there is something referred to as the 12-to-2 ratio. Anybody want to step out on the limb and share what the 12-to-2 ratio means in the book MREA?
So for every, hey, Steve, you should get, for every 12 hey, Steves, you should get 2 deals.
2 deals a year, yes. And why is it 2 out of 12 instead of 1 out of 6?
Because one is direct and one is repeat.
So close. So no, seriously, it's so close. That's not the answer, but I love that you use the word direct. Repeat would actually be a direct. Okay, but what you're going for, John, is it's a direct or a referral. A direct or a referral. So a direct is when the person whose name is already in your database is your client. And a referral is when they introduce you to somebody else that you wouldn't have otherwise known, who then becomes a client. And that's why earlier I was separating out from Julianne's question earlier on about whether she was talking about agent to agent referrals or referrals from your database. So direct, which includes repeat. Again, just like your past clients are just a subset of your sphere of influence, anybody in your sphere of influence, when they use you, whether it's for the first time or they've used you before, it's a direct deal. So it's really a question of, and that's why I had the word direct actually on the form here. I just highlighted it. When you're tracking your deal sources every year, you're going to track with every closing, where did this deal come from? And when they come from your net database, they come one of 2 ways. They're either a direct or a referral. And MREA says that you should have an equal amount of directs and referrals. And actually further research over the years, and something we talk about in Bold 2.0 and Never Ending Referrals, we should actually be getting more referrals than direct deals. So our goal is actually for every 2 direct deals, we should have 3 referrals. Now, I don't see that anywhere near often enough. Usually it's more like this, where this agent on this business plan, so far this year to date, this agent's done 9 deals closed and pending from their sphere, 6 direct and 3 referrals. So that's a 2-to-1 ratio. Ideally, it should be a 2-to-3 ratio, which means if they were in great relationship with their database, if they'd done 6 direct deals, they should have done 9 referrals. They'd have had 6 more closings, another $48,000 of revenue if they were getting referrals at the right level. The force multiplier for you is referrals from your database. Marketing and prospecting in particular to your Met database is the least expensive and most effective way to grow your business. And in fact, anything and everything else you do, like open houses and calling for sell by owners, or buying leads from Zillow or anything else, is really about growing your Met database by converting people into closings now and then having them in your database as a source of future referrals and additional direct transactions. I hope this is landing with you as strongly as I want it to. This is about getting referrals from your database. When you focus on the referrals from your database, the number of direct deals you get from your database will actually go up. And the number of referrals you get from your database will soar. So it's possible if this agent has 150 people in their database, that they could actually exceed their unit goal of 22 just from their database. They can hit that 16.4% conversion ratio, which, by the way, is 10% from referrals and 6.4% direct. As people move on average once every 10 years, and 64% of people are homeowners. That's where the 6.4% comes from. So these numbers can be a little confusing. That's why this works best when I'm doing this one-on-one with my clients. But are you following along? You're getting the point here. Yes?
Yes.
Great. Last line in the lead generation section is simply picking a particular place on the internet to focus on getting testimonials and building up enough on there to be meaningful. Zillow, Google, Realtor.com, Facebook, Yelp, Angie's List. Those are like the most common ones people focus on. And usually Zillow or Google out of those. By the way, you should be able to get online testimonials from most, if not every single client you work with. Speaking of which, I'm going to go back to something on the referrals in general from our database. We tend to think that if people aren't sending us referrals, we should read something into that and assume that means that they don't like us, trust us, or not willing to give us referrals, because otherwise they would. But what's the actual reason that we don't get referrals from our database?
We don't ask for them.
We don't ask for them. It's not on their radar. It's not in their 20%. It's not even in their 80%. They just don't even think about it. We don't ask for them. It's that simple. Ask for the referrals and watch your business skyrocket. All right. Any questions about the lead generation model? We worked through the two biggest, most important parts of the business planning. The next section is just some simple math where you look at your expense budget, see how much that works out to monthly. And then you also in particular break out how much you can spend on compensation, formerly known as salaries and benefits. By the way, Julianne, from your earlier question, that's where your transaction coordinator would go, even if you're paying them by file instead of, salary or hourly. So
And photographers and stagers.
Photographers and stagers actually go under lead generation.
Yes, you're right.
And MREA2 has made that clear, the MREA2 budget model, which we will be going into depth next Monday for an hour and a half. By the way, the title of next Monday's class needs to get changed on the big weekly overview. I'll send an email later to y'all to remind you.
Okay, thank you.
Not a big
You
deal.
guys don't want to miss it. P&Ls are critical and most agents don't even know what it is, let alone have one.
And when we're talking about some basic financial systems as well, in addition to the P&L. And I'm going to give you a spreadsheet that will allow you to start doing your P&L yourself very easily.
Mhm. What do you want that class changed to, Steve?
Let's just call it MREA, P&L, and financial systems.
Okay.
Making money in your sleep sounds great, but not. People are going to be disappointed if that's why they come.
Okay.
By the way, and you'll see on here, this is as much a reminder for me, the coach, as it is for you, which is to make sure that you actually have a P&L and that is actually built based on the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Chart of Accounts. Again, next week's topic. All right, the organizational model here is really very simple. In terms of the path to the 7th level, what level are you currently at? What level do you want to be by the end of the goal year, EOY, end of year? And then based on the organizational model, who am I going to be hiring? In this case, a level 1 agent has no assistants. They want to go to level 2, which will mean having 1 assistant. So they're either going to hire an EA, probably hourly or salary, or perhaps a transaction coordinator, quite possibly on a per file basis. Your first hire is always back office help. And your second hire is always back office help. So that you can get those 80% tasks off of your plate, make them somebody else's 20%. Because you actually have 5 jobs every day.
Yes.
Everybody knows the 5 jobs authoring?
Yes, they should if they've
Have
been
them
coaching
drilled
with
in?
Julianne and RI.
Anybody not sure what we're talking about? The 5 daily
I'm
jobs?
here, and if they don't know it, I'm gonna shoot myself.
Gosh, I sure hope there's tequila in the house.
Hey, Steve,
I have a loaded gun. Yeah,
quick question. So the 2 admins, and I've sat in your classes before, I think I recall. So one would be general admin. I know that. And then the second could be marketing related, right?
sure, absolutely.
And
Could be
you're
marketing related, could be a pure transaction coordinator. By the way, like I said, they can be hourly, they can be on salary.
Yeah.
And they should be W-2, not 1099. They should only be 1099 if they're a vendor,
Ah.
like a per file transaction coordinator. I think we just had an admission of guilt. They can be a virtual assistant as well. Eric, I got teams that running almost exclusively off of virtual assistants, and I'm talking about high production teams, 200 units a year plus teams.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a question about the virtual assistants.
Sure.
What exactly are the virtual assistants handling? And the only reason why I'm asking this is because I noticed that there are some people that just employ like a transaction coordinator type company that just does their transactions. When they do get a deal, they just handle all that administrative work to closing. So that's why I'm asking that question.
They can do pretty much really unlimited. Anything that an admin can do can be done by a virtual assistant with very, very, very few exceptions. You know, they can't go put your signs out, pick up a lockbox for you. But other than runner activities, basically, they can do it all. They can do transaction coordination, they can do marketing, they can do ISA, OSA, they can do sphere calls, they can do database maintenance and cleanup. They can write content for you. Whatever you need done, there are virtual assistants out there that can do it better than you. And for such ridiculously low money that it's just virtually
insane.
Stupid not to be using them.
Yeah. What do you have like referrals or recommendations for good virtual assistants? Because I know that would be a very key component of your business.
Everybody ready to
have
write
a
this
solid
down?
one. Yes.
This is a website. This is a domain name. And it is onlinejobs.ph. Online jobs, www.onlinejobs.ph for Philippines.
Okay.
We also have 2.
Pick one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Lisa. We also have 2 in-house vendors that are on our vendor list that are closing coordinators.
And you should be using them.
Yes, I saw that closing coordinators. That's why I was asking that question.
I
think that is a good investment.
I've been in real estate for 22 years. Okay, back before I became team leader, my mom and I led our team to being top 10 in the Atlanta Board of Realtors. I have used a vendor transaction coordinator for every closing in my career.
Amen, brother.
I have never once filled out a green sheet. I don't know how. Nor do I need to.
I have a question about the
Nor do you.
website that you
Nor
just
do you.
gave.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So with the Philippines thing, do you have any specific ones that are really good ones? Because, you know, with that, you can have like, it's half, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there are just so many to choose from in there. It's not like I know of any particular ones that aren't already working full-time for, a client of mine. So I wouldn't have any specific people to recommend, but that portal
Yeah.
Well, and you won't be dealing with any of the middlemen companies that really don't add any value to the equation.
Correct.
And I got
And
clients
then,
that have been working with the same virtual assistants for 5-6 years and counting.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Would you mind sharing who are some of these teams that are working with certain folks from there so that I can glean from their experience?
Oh, you can call any bigger team in Atlanta and chances are they've got them. I mean, I work with clients all around the country but if you want some specific recommendations, if you want to email me, I can.
Okay.
I know Shelley Werner in our office uses virtual assistants for everything that she does. Most people are using the vendors that are in our office. And so.
And if you're talking about transaction coordination, start with the vendors in the office.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're fully up and running. They know our contracts and our MLS and our systems already. We use a locally based virtual vendor. Have for the whole 18 years we've been at Keller Williams, or the 4 years we were Remax. When I first got in the business, we used a different one when we were at Remax, but I've always used somebody like that, locally virtual.
Okay, thanks. I'll email you, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, sure, great. All right. I want to have a few minutes left to walk through a version of what this looks like for a big team. So real quick, at the bottom of the page, this is where you put down your growth plan, okay? Training events, group coaching, books to read over the next year, and then put down your personal financial goals, including profit share goals, and knowing how much reserves you should have and how much you actually have. And actually, if you're not tracking your net worth, you need to start. We'll talk about that as well a little bit more next week. All right, let me switch to, I may have to unshare and then reshare. Okay, did that work or not?
What is it you want us to see?
What's going on here?
Oh, it was up.
Yeah, but was it the?
Yes, it was the
Is it 150?
1.2.
Yeah,
There is-
150 unit one. Is that showing?
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
Mhm.
Okay, good. For some reason, it's not showing on my screen, but that doesn't matter. You all see the 150 unit one.
Yes.
Okay, well, I would like to be able to see. Oh, there it is. Okay. So now we're talking about a generic team.
Mm.
All right. The big why has changed, because our big whys do change as we go through different stages in our life and our careers. And it's survival, and then success, and then significance.
Mm-hmm.
It's the general path of our big whys.
Yeah.
So the big numbers have changed. I built it all off of the same assumptions. Now here we have a true cost of sales. Because once you have a team, and again, next week's conversation in more detail, your cost of sales now includes not only your cap and royalties, but it now also includes the split of certain commissions with members of your team who participated in those transactions. Okay. So let's say there's an $8,000 closing and a buyer agent on your team handled it, and they're on a 50-50 split for that particular transaction with you. So they're going to get $4,000, right? $8,000 is still the gross commission income in your business plan and in your P&L. And then under cost of sales, they're $4,000. That's where that will then come out of your P&L. So now we can actually follow the 30-30-40 model. 30% of your revenue goes towards cost of sales and 30% goes towards expenses, which leaves you a 40% theoretical net profit margin.
So Steve, the typical split is 50-50 is what you're saying?
Don't assume that.
No.
Don't assume
Okay.
that.
No.
Okay.
But never higher than that,
Oh, okay.
and quite
Never-
often lower than that.
Very
Now, when you
often
say
lower
lower,
than
you
that.
mean like 60-40 split where you give your buyer's agent like 40%?
Yes,
What you're
quite
saying?
commonly, and
Okay.
on listings even less.
Yeah.
And maybe you base it on who generated the lead, maybe you don't. So it's a longer conversation, but
Okay.
50-50
Okay.
was not a recommendation, and it's also the highest it really should ever be.
Okay. Got it.
Now, in this case, I actually did change it to a 50-50 balance of sellers and buyers. And to close 75 buyer sides, I figured that, we're gonna need 2 or 3 buyers agents on the team to handle that. So the math changes, but the mathematics doesn't. This team needs to go on 12 listing appointments a month at a 65% conversion rate. That'll get them 94 listings and 75 sold. And the number of active listings they need and the number of pendings they need are, of course, scaled up as well. Now you'll see that their lead generation model has changed some. We're expanding, instead of just FSBOs, now we're talking about potentially having an ISA department, going after expires and for sale by owners. Our internet lead generation machine is probably going to be scaled up and be more than just Facebook command ads. Maybe we're actually going to buy ads or buy leads, I'm sorry, from a Zillow or somebody. Or use a system like YLopo to help generate more leads via social media.
What is YLopo?
YLopo is a third-party a marketing company that specializes in generating leads via social media. And the clients of mine that are using YLopo are actually quite happy with it.
Okay, so it's something like a bold leads.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
But in my experience, YLopo is getting much better results than bold leads. We're going to get into specifics.
Steve, can I ask you a question on the
Please.
ISA? Once you hire an ISA, OSA,
Yeah.
what is, and I don't know if you can answer it, but just approximately, what is your expected return?
What is your expected return for an ISA, OSA?
Yes.
Well, I definitely expect to have a positive ROI.
What percent?
I don't know if I've ever actually quite thought about it in those terms. I can try to remember to do so between now and next Monday, or maybe do some backwards calculations.
Okay.
But, there are so many other things that factor. It's a great question, actually. An ISA, if they're actually working for you instead of through a vendor, they're most likely going to be on a relatively small base plus back end commission,
Mhm.
typically 5% for closed buyers and 10% for closed listings. And those 5 and 10%, actually, you don't need to calculate an ROI on because you're providing them to agents on the team. That would be an example of where a buyer's agent would be getting 40% instead of 50%. So really, the cost of your ISA, OSA should be offset in your commission structure with your team. Because if you're giving them actually leads and appointments, there's real value in that. And while they might be making 40% instead of 50%, you don't put food on your table with percentages. You put food on your table with real dollars. And agents that are getting a lot of business at 40% are making a lot more money than agents that are doing a little bit of business at 50%.
Yeah.
So when you provide them leads and appointments, they're making good money. They're making six-figure incomes, even at a 40% split. By the way, most agents never make a six-figure income in this business.
Yeah.
Seriously?
So,
Seriously.
Steve, between now and next week, can you pick the brains of some of your teams that have used ISAs just to see how their income changed once they, and if you have a single agent who has employed an ISA and has very positive results, if you could pick their brains just to see
Yeah.
what that looked like as far as return on investment.
Yeah, for a single agent, is, the only time I've seen single agents do it is when they're trying to use some of these hard sell vendors that promise you amazing returns for a high upfront fee, and ends up being a nightmare. ISA is something that you earn the right to add to your business. So an agent on that first business plan isn't there yet.
So Steve, question.
Sure.
A little bit, well, let me just say it. My coach is giving me a Life by Design allocation form.
I have that. I helped create that for MAPS.
And
I
it's
remember
beautiful,
that.
and I love
Yeah.
it. And so I'm using it with my clients.
Great.
So the question is, we do that first to determine how we want to live our life. Then we look at our personal expenses, then our business expenses. That's how we determine how much money we need to make.
That's a great tool to use one-on-one with somebody for any of y'all to use to actually figure out what your unit goal should be. Because
Right.
that tool in the spreadsheet version that I built out for MAPS that's in use now, it will actually look at what it takes to run your business, what it takes to run your current household bills and lifestyle, and then what you need to actually add on all those additional things that equal a life by design.
Mm-hmm.
And then it actually calculates how many deals you need to close each year to cover your business and personal bills, and then how many additional units you need to actually hit those big Y type life by design goals. And that's a fantastic way to actually go back and, now that you know how to do this business plan, work through that allocation form, the life by design form. I put the life by design term on there, and then Gary decided to have the form renamed the life by design form.
Which
So
it should be.
I thought it was a great name. He has no idea that I put that in there, but I'm taking credit for it anyway. But I did put it in there. I did actually add that in, and he saw it and liked it and told MAPS to call it the life by design form. So I feel kind of cool about that.
Good. It's true.
Yes. All right, we are out of time, but I'm really impressed with everybody that we're able to go through so much in this format, and it seemed to have worked well. But again, specific questions, steve@kout.com, and or through Authorina and Juliana, and we got your back, and I'm glad that you were here, and please reach out and let us know how we can continue to help, and looking forward to seeing you all again next week.
Next week, absolutely. Same time, same place. The link will go out. Any forms that you need, we'll make sure we get it in plenty of time.
There will be forms, and they will be sent out in advance.
Exactly. And remember, this has been taped, and we will be keeping it on the quantrain.com, so you can go back and review it again if you need to later on. Thanks for being here, folks. Take care. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks,
My
Steve.
pleasure.
Thanks,
y'all.
Steve.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Steve.
Great job.
Hey, Steve, can you put the email in the chat box, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks, Steve. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
See you next week.